Audible to everyone. Yes, you do have to watch the previous sessions. I think the recording of that, the link of that was provided by Board Infinity to you guys. But we are also going to talk about the recap. So if you have not watched it, I think you will be able to make it with the recap as well. The one which we are just going to have right now, the recap. That is by which we can actually understand how the things were last time. Okay. Even if some topics take a little bit of a time, like there might be some concept which we are not going to talk about in much more detail today, like intent and entities, so and the fulfillment and everything like that. So and like the brief history of Dialogflow, the architectures of Dialogflow, and the design patterns, the themes, and the debates. So all those things which are the theoretical concepts which were needed to make a chatbot using Dialogflow, those particular concepts, and one test bot was developed in the last session. So that is what is present in the last session's recording. You can look forward for that. So I'll be starting with the session now. I'm assuming that everyone can see my screen, and I'm also assuming that my voice is audible to everyone. Just give me a yes or something in a chat box so that I can this chat section. Yeah, cool. Okay, great. So the rate of experience today would be around something like we'll talk about what we covered up in the next section, in the previous section, and we'll also talk about what we're going to cover in the next section. We'll talk about dialog flow again, what it is, how it works, the parts and the components of it. And later on, we are going to talk about the API, the Postman and ngrok, and also the testing of the API, which we will develop and integrate it with our dialog flow. That is what the whole agenda for the day is. So I think everyone must have seen the recording. If not, then I'm just giving a quick review and the recap. We talked about brief history of what chatbots were. The definition of a chatbot can be summarized as a computer program that stimulates human-like conversation. So it can be any service which could do a number of things. It can provide you with chat or voice support, as well as nowadays with video support as well, and it serves as like a human agent to you. That is what the perfect definition of a chatbot is. So any bot which is capable of performing chat like a human, that is what a perfect chatbot is. Then we talked about the whole journey of from where it started. So it started from 1950s, from the Turing paper, and it is still in the continuation. It has not reached its supremacy till now, till date. So there were a lot of people who needs to be credited, like Alan Turing. Then there was a chatbot by Perry. Then there was one more chatbot, the Alice. It is still considered as the mother for all the chatbots. And as of now, if we talk about the today's scenario, we'll see that there are Alexa, and then there is Cortana, Microsoft Cortana. Then there is a Facebook chatbot known as Blender, and then there are other chatbots such as Dialogflow, the Google Assistant, which is built on top of Dialogflow. So all these particular chatbots, they are being considered as the sixth generation of the chatbots, which we talk about as of now, which are pretty much comfortable in receiving a chat as well as the speech command from an end user and provides them with a human-like conversation. So when we talk about a chatbot, there are certain things like why and what of a chatbot, like what is the need of it. So the particular need is that for individuals like you and me, the end users or the customers, it provides you with a better entertainment. When it comes to Alexa or Cortana or Google Assistant, they provide you with a good experience. It definitely adds value to you and also provides you with a lot of entertainment. But the other thing is that there is business perspective added to it as well, such as there is an individual, like let us just say that you are running your own pizza shop and you want to actually provide one more platform to your end users, like as a WhatsApp chatbot, such that the end user or the customer can actually talk to you on a chatbot. They can actually talk to you regarding the orders. They can actually talk to you regarding the best deals today, and they can automatically talk to this bot. They can confirm their order, they can pay it over there, and they get their receipt, and then they, when the order is delivered, they get the notification as well. So that is the kind of the sales tunnel the chatbot can provide to you. It works for the better customer experience. It works for the enhanced sales. It works as a personalized services as well. We already are aware of it, like the Alexa. And definitely it brings down the cost efficiency. So everyone must be aware of the BPO segment, right? The customer care representative. So anytime if any of the electronic component or any of the component, if goes down, we have this particular toll free number, right, where we talk to a particular customer agent, and that customer agent provides us with the resolution of a problem, and that whole particular system can be automated by using a chatbot, and that provides you with a better experience. And the another thing is that human beings still need the resting time. Like if there is a customer service agent, he will need around 8 to 12 hours of a sleep, right? But a chatbot won't need it, because it will be running on a bare metal. So that particular service provides the better customer experience, and it provides to a lot of customer at a particular instant of time. As a human being would be able to entertain around 200 customers per day, but if there is an efficient chatbot, that can serve around 10 thousands of customers in a single day. So that is how it actually affects the business as well. We talked about the prerequisite of building any of the chatbot, and that is that we must be aware about three particular terms. One of the term is that of natural language processing, the natural language generation, and natural language understanding. Now, I explained these terms in much more detail last time. In the previous session, you can go back, you can understand what these things are there. I'll explain you in short. It is that the natural language processing is the ability of a computer to understand what the user is saying in a plain text or in a speech. That is what the natural language processing it. It majorly has one more component known as natural language understanding. So the whole processing part of it is that if I talk to a computer asking like what is the time, now, understanding that what I'm trying to talk about, this whole capability of a computer system to understand this natural language, which I just spoke to it, and then processing it and providing me with a particular result, that whole part is done with the use of NLP, NLG, and NLU. So the NLU is the understanding part of it, understanding the context, the meaningful information from the statement which is provided from the user. That is what NLU is. The NLP is then processing that particular part. If I'm asking for a time, then it will go forward for and look forward for a time. That is what the processing is. And generation is providing me with a particular response after doing the processing. So that is what the NLP, NLG, and NLU stands for. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch the previous sessions. Then we also talked about the API, which we are going to talk about today in much more detail. I'll explain it to you. So last time I told you that API are just like a logistic. Okay, like if I want to send uh, a particular piece of grain, okay, or anything. Let us just say that you live in Mumbai and I live in Delhi, and I want to send you some cargo. Okay, I want to send you some dairy milks. Okay, now if I want to send you some dairy milk from Delhi to Mumbai, I'll need a road, right? Either I'll need a roadways or airways. I don't think there is any waterway which is from Delhi to Mumbai. So I'll send you via this whole shipment will be available to you via transportation via road, or it will be available to you via the airways. And in any way, if I have to do this, it literally means that I'm actually providing you with this particular cargo via any of the means, right? Similar to that, in computer system, if there are two different application and they want to share the data with one another, or information in much more crude sense, it is the information which is shared. So if they want to actually share an information with one another, they need some sort of a protocol and some sort of a pathway by which they can do it. And that is what the application programming interface is all about. So if one application, let us just say that you have created one particular application, that is calculator, and I have created another application, that is accounting, and now I want to actually I want to actually use some of the information which is built by your application. So the sending and receiving of information will be done via application programming interface. It acts as an interface between two particular programs, okay, two particular programmable applications. That is what it is about. So we'll talk about much more detail what an API is if you're not aware of it. But just get an understanding, like to share an information between two applications, we use an API. Then we talked about the user experience, because developing any of the product, a chatbot or any of the product, you need to have a very, very, very great user experience for it. So there are three particular components to it. There is human elements, what are the desired outcome, and what are the informational elements to it. We talked about it in much more detail last time. You can actually look the previous videos for that. We talked about the platform knowledge. It is nothing but if you want to build a particular chatbot, you must be aware about what is happening in the market, what are the trends in the market, what is the industry specifically focusing on. So that is what the platform knowledge is all about. So you need to be aware of that. Then we talked about the types of chatbot. There are typically rule-based chatbot, and then there are AI-powered chatbot, and then there are something which is known as hybrid chatbot. So, and then there is another classification which is done on chatbot. It is based on the problem you are trying to solve. Let us just say that you want to solve a problem of frequently asked questions. Okay, like there is a railway system. Okay, we have Indian Railways, and they want to have a chatbot which will help passenger with the frequently asked questions. Okay, and these particular frequently asked questions are such that at what time this particular train will start, or at what time uh, anything will happen, right? So that is what you want to actually start with. So in that particular application, you can go with the rule based chatbot, because it particularly works on a rule. And if in case you want to actually have this application which provides with the personalized intent and classification, let us just say that you made a chatbot which is quite good as a psychiatrist to an individual. So only in that particular scenario, you can actually have the AI powered chatbot, and there are certain chatbots in the market as of now. So it depends on the problem typically which you are trying to solve. If you are trying to make an FAQ chatbot, uh, it is perfectly fine to make a rule based chatbot. But if you are trying to incorporate the functionalities of AI into it, and your use case is as such that it will be needing it, then you need to go with that particular thing. So there are typically six major classification. There is support chatbot, the assistant, the informational one, skill, transactional, and conversational. All of these were presented in a much more detailed way. You can look forward for the recordings for that. Then we talked about the architecture of it. We'll still talk today again for the architecture because it is relevant to the thing which we are going to do today. So there are generative and retrieval based model. The generative model is as such that the user sends the message, and then your chatbot will receive the message, and it will look forward for what was this particular model intended to do. Okay, like let us just say that you sent hi to a chatbot, and if you sent hi to a chatbot, then chatbot will look forward for previous messages. Like the last time when a user gave me hi, what was the reply which I had to give to a particular user. So for every time a user say hi, you say, hey, welcome to the platform, or you would say like hola, or you would say hey, or you would say greetings, or something like that. Like, so default responses. So every time user give you a message, you have a particular directory. You will look forward for the matching intent. Like this particular string value maps to this particular intent, and that's why I will send this particular response. So that is a generative model where everything is already programmed earlier. Okay, like based on the previous messages and the responses, this model learns like what is the response which user needs to listen from a chatbot. That is a generative model. Then there is another model that is a retrieval based model. And in the retrieval based model, you have the user message, but in this case there is a retrieval mechanism which works in the process. Okay, and today when we are going to talk about the API integration, we will be doing it using the retrieval based model. There is already a set responses, and for that particular response, there is a mapping done, and only for that particular message, a particular response will be given. That is what we are going to do today. So every FAQ chatbot is using the retrieval based model. So if you want to learn about generative and retrieval based model in much more detail, refer to the previous video. And this is what a typical basic block diagram of any chatbot is all about. There are certain presentation layer, like it can be from a website or a Facebook Messenger or a Slack Messenger, or any of the bot can be on any of the presentation layer. From there, a particular input is provided by the user, and that input is being taken as the message by a chatbot, and then the NLP or engine will actually understand what the user is trying to say, and it will provide it to the decision engine. Decision engine will send it to the third layer data connector, or the data, like the data lake or the database, or anywhere where the data is stored. The decision engine, based on the decision it makes, will send this particular data, the received message. It will map it out, and it will take and receive the proper data from the data connector, and a particular response will be generated, and that particular response will be sent back again to the presentation layer. So if you look at the user journey, it is just like a client says hi to a chatbot, then the NLP engine will work. It will check whether it will extract the meaningful information out of it, and it will also check for the data service, like whether this particular information is intended for any particular class of data. Once that information is retrieved, it will send the data back to the chatbot, and then the chatbot will again send it back to the chat client or any of the presentation layer. That is what a typical flow is all about. Now, the response generation mechanism are of two types: the pattern-based and the intent classification using the machine learning. You can understand about this in a much more detail using the last session links, and you can also go through this particular flow diagram of every chatbot in the same link. Now, this is what we need to talk about in much more detail today. So every time you use a dialog flow, and this dialog flow, what it does is that it takes a input from any of the user, and after it takes the input from the user, what it does is that it uses machine learning at its backend. Okay, this machine learning is nothing but the NLP engine of a chatbot. Then this NLP engine actually takes the decision, and this decision is passed through the cloud function, and the response is sent to us. Now this whole backend is actually abstracted away. Okay, this whole Kubernetes engine, compute engine, you won't be able to see it, because this is a layer of abstraction which Dialogflow provides. So it provides you with this whole beautiful mechanism where you just need to provide yeah, a particular intent, and for that intent, the training phrases and the entities and some other context or fulfillment if required. All this rather informational things are being taken care by the Dialogflow itself, and we are going to do it just now in the demo section. So if we talk about, and this is the open source Rasa chatbot, in the coming sessions afterwards, there will be a specific workshop for the Rasa. We can skip this for now. And we also talked about what is the enterprise grade chatbot system looks like. This is also being described in much more detail last time. So if we talk about the application of chatbot, there are n numbers of application. There is messaging apps, then there is customer service, healthcare, politics, toys, entertainment, several application. There were several themes and debates. We talked about it in much more detail the last time. And then there are use cases and user stories like help desk automation, psychological assessment, and smart home automation control, several of them. And then there were some out of box use cases, like previously in the first generation of the chatbot, FAQ was the one which was being used extensively. Then came the booking, then the recommendation. And just after booking and recommendation, there was also one thing which was like feedback and survey. And then bargaining, it is a new way to look forward for chatbot. It is just like an e-commerce site like eBay or Ola or OLX. And what you do is that you actually want to buy a product, but you can actually chat and bargain for a particular price. Like if the set price is $27, you can bargain like I want to buy it for $20, or I want to buy two but for $40, something like that. So a chatbot is a very efficient methodology to be adopted in that particular scenario. Then there are promotion and marketing, which is extensively used. You already are aware of it. And now we will today talk about the dialog flows. We are going to start with our real session. This was just the preview and the recap, which we actually discussed the last time. Now, when we talk about the dialog flow, it is nothing but a platform designed by Google, and it provides you with the natural conversational experiences, and it provides you with an ability to create conversational experiences across devices and several of the platform. How it does it? There are certain things about the dialog flow, like in 2012, it was known as Speak to It, and by the 27, it got its name, which was Dialogflow. And then the Google actually took over it, and earlier it was known as API.ai. It was a separate startup, but this startup was bought by Google, and then they made it Google Dialogflow. Then Google Dialogflow came up with two versions. One of the version, the earlier version was in 2019, that was V1, and right now it is V2. Since 2020, it is version 2. And why do we use Dialogflow? Because it makes your job a little bit convenient to build a chatbot, and it provides you all the things out of box. Okay, everything is provided in one particular area. All the integration and everything is in one place to make a chatbot. We'll see how efficient Dialogflow is. Okay, so there's one extremely important part of a Dialogflow, that is the Dialogflow console. The home page of a Dialogflow is the Dialogflow console. From there, you can actually look for the intents, the entities, the fulfillment, the integration, the settings, the machine learning model if you want to make your custom. It is used to build, manage, fine tune, and test your particular agent. It provides you with a testing environment as well. So that is what a Dialogflow console is all about. We'll see what a Dialogflow console is, how it looks like. Then, what is an agent? Agent is nothing but it is a behavioral entity of a chatbot. Okay, how your chatbot actually behaves out in a real-time environment that is being depicted by having an agent. So, agent is the one who handles your conversation with the end user. Agent also serves as a top-level container for settings and data, and it provides you with several of the other settings as well. We'll see some of them today. Now, for every particular kind of a chatbot, there is something which is known as intent. Okay, and I think I'll be able to explain you in a much more better manner. So last time we did talk about intent, but not in uh, a much more better manner. So if someone is new, I'll tell them how it actually works. So let us just say that you are having a message. Okay, your message is something like this. Okay, hi. Uh, how are you? Okay, this is what a user actually says. Let us just say that this is the user. This is the end user, and he comes and he say, "Hi, how are you?" Or he just came and say, "Good morning." Okay, and then also this user says, uh, "What is the time right now?" So you can understand that the very first thing is that. This is a statement over here, like good morning. This is a question and this is also a question. Now, you and me, we both are aware of English language, and that's why we know that this is a question mark sign. Okay. And based on that, we came to conclusion that yes, this is a question. But every user, whensoever he speaks something or whensoever he types something, there is an intention behind it. And finding what an intent is for saying this particular thing, that is being characterized as intent in Dialogflow as well. Okay, so intent is nothing but it is a basic ability of a chatbot to find out the intention behind speaking or texting a particular piece of text. Like in this case, hi, how are you? We can understand that at this particular instant, that a user would be asking about the wellness, or the user is actually asking about the well care for a chatbot. Like, how are you? It can be considered in the intent which is known as so we'll tell that this is well care. Okay, and then there is good morning. So good morning is, so in this case we will say that the intent of a user is to greet. Okay, or it will be welcome, because the intention of the user right now is to actually welcome the chatbot. And if this user is talking about what is the time right now, so the intent is this particular case. In this case, my intent would be that I want to know the time. The very first thing is I want to know this. Okay, what is the time? So this can come under the intention of knowing something. So you get the general idea, right? Like what the intent is. Okay, so the intent is nothing but the ability of a chatbot to extract out what is the meaningful information which the user is actually asking for. So let us just say, like, what's the forecast? In this case, the agent will actually understand that he's talking about the forecast intent, or what is the weather right now. So again, same, the forecast. What is the temperature? Again, same, the forecast. So all of these questions, so there can be n number of questions, but they can be mapped into a single intent. Okay, and that is what the ability of a chatbot is, to actually gather the intent from a particular statement, and that is provided as an out of box service in Dialogflow. So how do we do it? We do it with the help of training phrases, the actions, the parameter, and the responses. And I'll explain you. We will do this thing. Okay, when we'll be doing the demo. Then there is something which is known as the entity. Okay, and entity is nothing but gathering the relevant information from a particular text. So just like here we talked about the time. So in this case, you can see that here good morning comes as a greeting or welcome intent. But what is the time? When I say time, we can say that yes, time is my entity. So let me just actually provide you with a proper definition of what an entity is. Okay, let us say that if this is again my user, and he asks what is the temperature in Delhi. So you will see that Delhi and temperature. Like what is the user, the intention of a user is, the intention of a user as of now, if I ask about intention of my particular user, so the intention of a user is he wants to know something. If my bot is good enough, he will say what he's trying to know. So I'll say that typical intent is he wants to know what the forecast is. But if we talk about in this particular statement, what is the relevant information he's asking for? So he's asking for the information about temperature. That is what he's asking for. And he's also asking for specifically Delhi. So that means that he's asking for a particular location and he's asking for a particular variable value, which is the temperature. So every time a statement is being given, okay, for every time a statement has been given, there is something which is known as the verb of the sentence. Okay, everyone is aware of what the parts of speech are. So whensoever we are talking about the verb in a particular sentence, then we talk about the intent. But whenever we are talking about the noun in a sentence, then that particular noun entity is the real-time entity of a chatbot. So if in case I want to actually, let us just say that my question is what is the date today? Okay, that is what my question is. What is the date today? So that means that the intention of the user is to know something. Typically, what he wants to know about the date, and the date in this case becomes my entity. That is the difference between the intent and the entity. I hope, because last time also there was some of the confusion regarding this, like what is the difference between the intent and the entity. We will actually have a good look of the entity, let's just say, when we will be doing the real-time demo, but then we'll understand what an entity is much more detail. The context is nothing but understanding from where the user is coming. Okay, that is, let us say that tell me about my checking account. Then there will be a trigger event here that will be like what do you want to know about, like what information do you need on your checking account. And then he will say my balance. Now if let us consider that my balance is the first message which is provided to a chatbot, it doesn't make much sense, right? Because what you want to talk about, which balance are you talking about? But here the chatbot is smart enough to understand the context of it. He's talking about the my balance where he's talking about the my balance into his checking account. So he wants to know what is the account balance as of now, and that is what here the bot is going to provide the user with. So that is how you set up the context as well. Most of the time the context can be set using events are the triggers. Let me show you how this works. And the another one is the planned event as well. So there are custom event and then there are platform events. We'll talk about the custom and the platform event in our coming session on the Sunday. We'll talk about the events on that day, on the coming Sunday. So today we will cover about the intent and the entity, and we'll talk about the fulfillment. Fulfillment is nothing but adding the API service or a webhook request. Now, this is what this whole session is all about today. Let us just say that your chatbot is interacting, your user, end user is interacting with the chatbot, and he wants to ask a chatbot about any information. Like he wants to ask where is the train right now, or if you want to ask the train which will come to Mumbai at around 6 p.m. today, what is the status of that particular train? Now whensoever these type of information or question where Dialogflow in itself is not capable enough to provide you with an answer, we have something which is known as the API integration. Okay, and or the webhook fulfillment. Now what this webhook fulfillment does is that uh, I'll explain it to you in a couple of minutes when we'll talk about the API in detail. Then we'll talk about the fulfillment and webhook again. But in the crux, in the simple terms, what it does is that what it does, it gets the information from the user. uh, get the meaningful information from that particular message which user gives him. Then it maps that to a particular web service or a webhook, and then gather the information from a third party. Okay, like any external API or any external database, it gather the information from there, and then it provides back the information to the end user. And this whole thing is done using the fulfillment, just like the case over here, like checking the balance. How this thing works, you talk about what is the, tell me about my checking account. Then the bot asks, what do you want to know about the checking account? You say my balance. The moment it gets my balance, what the bot will do is that bot will go using the API service, it will go to a database, it will look forward for what is the current balance, take back that particular data and provide that data again to the user. And this whole thing is done using the fulfillment and API service. So anyone who is not aware of what webhook is and anyone who is not aware of API, no need to worry. We'll talk about them in much more detail. Now there is typically thing known as the integrations, and we talked about the integration last time as well. We did the integration with Telegram. So last time, if you want to have a look at it, you can go back to the session, the first session. You will see how we integrated with a Telegram app, and there are several types of integration which comes inbuilt in Dialogflow. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then there are best practices like how you should actually make your boat, and how you should define the testing practices and performance and everything for a dialog flow. So that were covered the last time. There are certain use cases and user stories for dialog flow. We talked about that. Now we will talk about the RESTful API. Okay, so give me a second. I'll just take the needed information. Okay, so consider that. All right. So let us just say that this is your dialog flow. Okay. I'm saying is as DF. Now this is the user, and he is typically using Dialogflow for some information. Like let us just say that the user says hi, and this hi goes to Dialogflow. Now what Dialogflow has? Dialogflow has several components. One of them is the NLP part of it, and the another is the cloud functions part of it. Now this high as a message, okay, it will take it as a string. So this particular high goes to Dialogflow. Dialogflow then extracts this meaningful information from high using the natural language processing. So it classifies into the intent. Okay, it classifies the intent and entity. And after getting the intent and entity, it finds that this high belongs to the welcome intent. Okay. Now that is one part of a dialog flow. The another thing is that once we understand that this particular high belongs to intent of welcome, there is a response which needs to be provided, and that response is done using cloud functions. Now, cloud function is an out-of-box service which is provided by Google itself. Okay, Google Cloud. So cloud functions are hosted in Google Cloud. Now, what typically it does, the performer, the whole point of having a cloud function is that once you get a high from a user, that high is actually mapped to a welcome intent, then there is a response which needs to be given. Okay, you identified what the intent is, then you need to send some kind of a response. And you send this response using a cloud function. And let us just say for every high, you say, hey, how are you? So this response, which will be sent back to the user, this response come back by using a cloud function. Let me actually tell you this whole thing again with the help of a real-time simulation at a Google Dialogflow. So I'm just going to open it. So typically what you can do is that you can search for Dialogflow over here, and what you will see is that there will be something like dialogflowcloud.google.com. You can open it. And the moment you will open it, you will be asked for a sign in if you are already not a member. So it will ask you for a sign in over there. If you are a member, then it won't be asking you for a sign in. You will directly redirect it over here. So this is what a Dialogflow console is all about, and these are the intents. So typically there is a default welcome intent, default following intent. Let me just make another intent, okay? And this intent name is hobbies, okay? And I saved it. So there can be training phrases, okay? There are a lot of training phrases you can provide to Dialogflow, like what will be the question? What is your hobby? We did this last time as well. What is your hobby? Uh, which you like to do in free time? Hobby. Done. So this is done. And then I'll say that if any sort of question like this comes, okay, these are the training phrases which tell the bots. So if any type of that particular question comes, my default response would be, uh, I like to code and I like to code, eat, play, and that is it. And I'll save it. Now you'll see that if I say over here hobby, and I'll see that when the user says hobby, the intent it matches is with that of hobbies, and I like to code, eat, and play. Now you will understand like what I was talking about right here when I was talking about the cloud functions in a much more detailed way. So there was a user, he said hi, and the Dialogflow used NLP to figure out which intent it fall into. And similarly, we said over here hobby. So our word was hobby. Then the NLP engine of Dialogflow find out that the intent it is of hobbies, and the default response it gave was I like to code, eat, and play. Now this whole internal working you saw over here, this whole internal working is done by using the cloud functions. There is another thing which comes with Dialogflow, and that is that it also has something which is known as fulfillment. Okay. Now, this webhook fulfillment, you will understand it in a much more better context when I'll explain you what an API is. Okay. So I'll provide you with an overview concept of an API. For that, let me just make it a new one. So API, as I told earlier, it is an application programmable interface. And when we say application programmable interface, it is what it does is that it helps you to carry out information between two different runtime programs. Okay, let us just say that I'm having this system which is known as S1, and I'm having this system which is known as S2. Now S1 is in technical term I will call it as server one, and this one is server two. And this server one and server two wants to communicate. Let us just say that this is my banking server. Okay, both of them are my banking server. So we are talking about banking. So my server one is having all the debit account, all the debit transaction. So let us just say that he's my user. Okay, and his name is let us just say Ram. Two generic name, right? Yeah. So what Ram wants actually? So Ram is having his information are on two particular servers. Server one actually only have the debit information, and here you have the credit information. And what Ram wants? Ram wants the balance. Okay, that is what Ram is looking for, balance. So in order to get the balance, what I need? I need all the data from S1. I need all the data from S2. I need to combine them together. And once that is being combined, I will get my balance. Okay. So to get this information from here, this full path is I will be using an API here as well as an API here. And I can do that by using functions. Okay, so I'll get all the information from this particular server, I'll get all the information from another server, I'll use simple API for it, and once I get this information, I'll my function will run some sort of logic, and it will provide me with a balance. Let me give another real-time example to you. Okay, let us just say that you are filling up a form, right? So let us say that this is your form, and I think this is something which everyone must have done. So there is a first name, and then there is last name. Okay, first name and last name, and it asks for some password. Okay, and that is it. Okay, let us just say that okay, there is one more thing. Okay, email id. So email ID. So there, here you have your email ID, you have password, your last name and first name. The moment the user fill this particular screen with all this information goes back into a database, okay, where it is being stored. This whole operation is also done using an API. So whenever I want to send my particular information from one system to another or receive certain information from one system to another, I use the API. That is what the overview and concept of an API is. Today we are also going to make one API. We'll be making a Node Express API. If you're not aware of Node or anything, don't worry, we'll do it. No worries. So I hope everyone is aware of how and why we use an API. Okay, API is typically used to transfer an information from one particular system to another system. So when you use an application like on your mobile phone, the application connect to the internet, okay, and it sends the data to any server or any place where it is being stored, and that is done via API. So I hope everyone understands what an API is now. Now, when we say that we are having the API, so you understand what the overview and concept was. We will understand what the usage is once we start doing our hands-on. And the Postman is another tool which we'll be using today. So Postman is typically used to test out your API, whether your API is providing the right information or not, or it is giving the right answer to a particular query or not. All those information can be tested out using a Postman. It is a very beautiful tool, and it's a very great startup and indeed as well, Postman. So whenever we make our API, we want to check like the data which we receive and send, is that data good enough or not. So that can be done using the Postman. And then there is also one more thing which we'll be using, that is Visual Code, Node Express, and we will be using ngrok as well. It is used to uh, host your local host as HTTPS request. So I'll explain all these things again to you. So for right now, let us just say that uh, you have your dialog flow, and we saw how hobbies was working, right? Hobby was working fine. So as of now, I'm having test 01, that is my agent. Acha, if there is one more thing, like how this agent is created, how the intent are being brought, how I can find this. So all this was covered in the last section. Okay. And in the last section, like the last session which we had, the recording of it is shared in the chat today. So how to make a very basic chatbot, how to get a new agent, and how to come up with the intents, that is something which we covered last time. What was taught till now, I was not able to join time due to network issues. So all of there was not much which was being discussed. We talked about what Dialogflow is. We talked about the basics of API, and we talked about the various components of Dialogflow. Now we will be talking about fulfillment, and we'll be talking about how to make a RESTful API and use it in a Dialogflow. So you can see that as of now in intent, I'm having my welcome intent. Okay, and my welcome intent. So whenever I say hi, it provides me with some sort of a response, right? Greeting, how can I assist you? Why is it doing so? You can check it out over here, because we have trained it to do so. For every sort of a response, there is a particular training which goes. Let me give you a brief of it. These are the default response. Hi, how are you? Hello, how can I help you? Good day, what can I do for you? And greetings, how can I assist you? So whenever, if let us say we say hello, greetings, how can I assist you? Hey, greetings, how can I assist you? See, so every time an individual is actually asking any of the greeting messages being given by the user, you will see that it always maps to the default welcome intent, and then action is being provided like input.welcome, and that action triggers the response. This is the response which is triggered, and any one of them is randomly, it goes over there. That is how it works. And I can make my new intents as well, as we shown. Like let us say I want to make another intent, that is of the contact us, contact. So how can I contact you? That can be the way user ask, how can I contact you? Or he can actually ask contact info, and he can ask mail ID. Can I get in touch with you? And it should be. So these are the top of the type of the input the user will give. And for this, we will be having our response over here. And that would be like ping me at mail ID and me at xxx99xxx. Okay, let me give it a save over here. So if I'll ask for I got you, you will see that this will match to a particular intent, the contact which we just made, and the responses ping me at this or call me at this particular thing. Hi Akhilesh, you're a little bit late to the webinar, although the recording of this will be sent to you. So I think right now you can actually carry forward with us. We will be making an API today, and we'll be integrating that API with our Dialogflow today. The summary of it is that we talked about Dialogflow, and we talked about the intent, we talked about the API request response cycles, and we talked about various architectures. We also talked about how a particular intent is being mapped, and if an intent is mapped, how we get a particular response. That is what the summary till now is sort of. There were other things which we talked about, but that was the recap of it. Now, I hope that gives you a summary of it. Also, this is the second session in the session. So if you have not attended the earlier session, yeah, there is a whole particular link, the session one link. So sort of, is this your second session or were you the part of the first session? It is in the chat. You can look for the video link in the chat. That is, yep. All right. So now what we are going to do today is that we will be talking about the fulfillment. And in order to, this is your first session. Okay. So no worries. You can actually go through this session. It is not going to be troublesome for you. Uh, it's going to be literally easy, not that fun. How we came over here, it is pretty much simple summary. You can go and log into Dialogflow and you will come up to this particular window, and we talked about how to add a particular intent, and now I'm going to start with the fulfillment of it. So right now you can see that the webhook is disabled. So as I explained earlier, as you saw over here, as I explained last time, that so every time there is this user, and this user will always give me some text. Okay. And then what will happen is that this text will be taken by Dialogflow. And what Dialogflow will do is that it will use its NLP engine, and this NLP engine will extract the meaningful information. When we say meaningful information, it will get intent or entity. And then this will be sent to the decision engine. Okay, there is something which is known as decision engine, which is nothing but your ML model. And then this decision engine provides you with some kind of a response. Okay, and this whole response, so we say that based on that you get some response. This response will be sent back to a user using cloud function. And once you get a cloud function, you get your response. So that is what a typical journey is always about. Like user will come, it will say something. Once it says something, the dialog flow will extract the meaningful information using the NLP engine. It will actually classify the intent or the entity. Then the decision engine will trigger based on the machine learning model it has. It provides you with some sort of a response. That response will be triggered back to the user using the cloud function, and some of the text will be displayed back to the user, or any of the thing will be displayed back to the user. So let us just see this thing again. So I can come over here and I can actually have my integration, and I'll look forward for a web demo. Okay. So these are the typical kind of integration which Dialogflow provides. Okay. You can have a web demo, a Dialogflow messenger, or a Facebook messenger. You can directly integrate it to the Facebook messenger. So I clicked on the web demo, and yep, I enabled it. And this is my URL. Open link in your tab. And actually, you can use the same URL. Okay, I'm copying and pasting it over here so that everyone can use it. So you can use this particular URL and you can also test this port. So if I say hi, you will see that it will send me some kind of a response over here. Good day, what can I do for you? See, so how did this thing work? Because there are certain intents, okay? Let me close this thing. There are certain intents which are already being defined over here. So how does it work? There is an intent known as the welcome intent. In the welcome intent, you can see that once our user will say something like hi, hey, hello, howdy, hey there, something like that. Every time there will be a default responses which we have written over here. Hey, how are you doing? Hello, how can I help you? Good day, what can I do for you today? Or greeting, something like that. And similarly, when I gave a hi over here, just a second, hi over here, it gave me good day, what can I do for you? And if I asked over here contact, so if I ask him, how can I mail you? Something like that. Ping me at mail ID, call me at this. So there is something which we made today, right? We saw it, right? We actually made it right now. So we made an intent, and that intent was about the contact. And in the contact intent, you saw that we provided it with the training phrases. Like, can I get in touch with you? Mail ID, contact info, how can I contact you? Something like that. And for that, we actually wrote down the default response, like ping me at this and call me at this. So every time a user is being provided with or gives some sort of an information, we provide it with a response. And if I say something which is not making sense, like the date right now, so can you say that again? You will see that it is saying, can you say that again? Because it does not find any of the intent. Like I can try it over here. Oh, date. See, I missed that say again. It is default fallback intent. So that means that the input is unknown, and that is what we have also provided over here. You will see that there is a default fallback intent. So whensoever this chatbot won't understand what you are trying to say, it will provide it with the responses like this. I didn't get that. Can you say it again? I missed what you said. Sorry, could you say that again? Something like this. So it is working perfectly fine. Our bot is working perfectly fine. But that is not the agenda for the day. Is okay. Our agenda for the day is that we want to integrate it such a day. Right now, what is the problem? Okay, which is also a feature, but it is our problem. Right now, whenever we are saying we are giving any of the information. Okay, let us just say that this is just an information which we give. When we say something, the dialog flow goes to an LP engine. Okay, it goes to an LP engine. So I provide some sort of information. It goes to dialog flow. Then the NLP engine performs the categorization of intent and entity. Once I get an intent, I send the response, but what I use cloud function. And this is a typical offering of Google. We want to break this, okay? So I'll tell you what we are going to do and what is the difference. And in the later action, it becomes it's a very big difference which we are going to do today. That brings a lot of a big difference. So let us just say that again, this is a user. Almost every website have AI dialog flow. So can we use this? Akhilesh, can you tell me the context of it? Like, can you integrate it with a website? That is what you're saying. So the typical journey. Okay, yeah, we can integrate it with a website. There is no problem at all. We can do the integration with a live website as well. So on the coming Sunday, we are again having a session that is regarding integration. So that day we will be integrating our Dialogflow chatbot with a real website. Okay. So right now, what we are going to do is there is this user. Let us just say that this is Akhilesh. Okay, and this is Saurabh. I'm not very good with the drawing, so kindly bear with that. Okay. So, so this is Akhilesh, and he is having his own Dialogflow agent. So what it does is that he sends some text, okay, any random text like hi, hello, or something, anything. Now, what happens when he sends some text to the Dialogflow? The Dialogflow will do all the necessary things that we just discussed about. It will extract the meaningful information. It will find what response it has to send and everything. But that is done using the cloud functions. But what we want is that we want to give something from our end, okay? Some sort of information from our end, typically. So again, he also provides some text. And again, Dialogflow will do some sort of all the relevant for finding the intent for that particular message and everything it will do. But this time we won't be using cloud function. We'll be using our API. And to have this, we'll be needing our own server. So what we want is that we want our custom responses to be sent back, okay? And that is what the real taste of coding is. What we will do is that right now everything we are using from the Dialogflow itself. All the responses also we are using from the Dialogflow. The intents are also present in the Dialogflow. Now what we want is that this response should go, but it should go from our server, not from the Dialogflow or not from the Google. This response will go, but from our end, and that is why we will be doing a little bit of coding. And if you're new, then it is fine, no worries. Just bear with me, you will find it. Okay, it's a interesting thing to do. No worries as such. So let us just say, so anyone who, okay, how many of you are aware with the programming and how many of you are aware with OOPS, at least the concept of OOPS, the object oriented programming language? Cool, no worries then. Okay, little bit, no worries. Okay. In C++, no worries as such. So what we will do is that we will open a folder over here. And that folder should be API demo. Okay, we'll select this folder. See, this is an API demo. And we are going to make our node server. Okay. So in that we will be using index.js. So if you're not aware of Node, don't worry. Uh, People who know Node, they also don't know the whole Node, so don't worry about it. We want our terminal. Okay, so this is Visual Studio Code. This is our IDE for today. This is a integrated development environment, and what we are going to do, I'll explain it to you first. So let me make a pseudo code for it. So we are going to go with this particular path. Okay, this guy, this sort of guy. That is what we are going to do right now. So you saw we already did this, okay? This is something which we are already aware of. We already did it. We sent some text. The Dialogflow found out the intent using the cloud function. We got our response as well. But this time we will be making our own API. So I'll tell you the architecture of it, what we are doing. So what we want to do is that we will, this is user. This user will send some piece of information to Dialogflow. This Dialogflow will send again this information to a server. Okay, so we'll send some sort of information to the server. Okay, some information to the server will be sent. Then on this server there will be a function. This function will perform some logical operation. After this function performs some logical operation, we will get something which is known as a response. And then this response will again go back to the user. Okay, that is what we are going to do as of now. So user will come, it will send his message. Okay, so he will send his message. That message will go to Dialogflow. From Dialogflow, we will get some. We will do our some of the basic some information. Some information will be provided to a server which we will host by ourselves. So we will host it. And then on this server there will be some sort particular function which will be executed. That function will perform some logical operation. It will send us some response, and that response will be again sent back to the user. So earlier what we were doing, this whole cycle, the user sent the message to Dialogflow was same, but then our responses were coming from the Google Cloud function. Right now it will be coming from our own server. So we are going to build our own server. This is the part which we are going to do right now. Okay, so I hope everyone gets the clarity. Anyone have any question over here? Do we make a separate classes for user and server? Okay, we only make a separate server. When we say separate classes, the like what classes are it? Like we don't. Is it that you're asking like different users? Some user will actually be accessing it via server, and other user will be accessing via cloud function. Like you're saying that only typical user will be able to access this server. Like author, no, that is not what we are doing for every user. Okay, this will be generic, although we can do that, but this will be generic as of now. All right, that is what we are going to do, because once you are able to do this, later on you will be able to get any information from the web using your own API. So we are just making a POC right now, the proof of concept, how to do this thing. In the coming session on the next Sunday, we will be taking it forward from here, where we will be what we are only going to do is that we are going to make the weather board. Okay, and that all the information regarding the weather we'll get it from some other website, and from there we will send it over to here. That is what we are going to do in the next session. So I'll tell you why we do this particular thing. Okay, I'll provide you with the explanation of this as well. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Anyone has any question over here? Okay, so I'll tell you how we do this. See, every time a user comes, okay, and user ask for information, ask for some info. Now, whenever user comes and asks for a typical information, it is not possible that all that information will be in the form of a string, right? Because right now, see, you can see over here, like in your Dialogflow, here you are providing all the information in the form of a string. Everything is in the form of a string. So you can provide it. But let us just say like we were having a typical case we saw just now. We were having a typical case like a user is coming, he's asking for some information, and he's asking for what is my account balance. So in this particular case, what happens? So let us say that this is a user. He asked for balance. And now the Dialogflow is able to actually understand that he is asking for account balance. But where it will get this account balance? To do that, what it will do is that it will understand that, okay, the intent is account balance. When the intent is being identified, after that, there is a special service which will go, okay? So it will hit an API service. This API service will go to the web server of the banks, okay? So this API will go to the This is a database of a bank, and it will go over here. It will ask for what is the bank balance. Okay, bank balance for user, and based on this particular query, this will provide it with like a bank balance is equals to x rupees, and this information again should be taken by your dialog flow and provided back to the user. That is what we want. So in order to do this, you need to understand how integrate this API, right? And that is what we are going to do now. So we'll be making our own server first. Like banks have their own server, we'll be making our own server. That is what we'll be doing. So we were having our Visual Studio Code. Yeah. And we are using typically a Node server. So anyone who is not aware of Node, it is a very good thing. Okay, it is a part of a JavaScript, but very strong in itself. It comes with its own server, and what it does provide is that it provides you with some other additional benefits. Like everything is already being written over here in Node. You don't need to write much of the function by yourself. All right, you get a lot of things out of box. Like if you want to have a the HTTP handler, or if you want to make your own CRUD REST template, or anything if you want to do, there are already pre-built packages and pre-built modules. So you can use those particular modules and the work is done. So that's why it is a little bit easy to use Node, and that's why we are also going to use Node as of now. Cool. So, and this is a very famous. It's like a Hello World for Hello World program for having the integration of an API. So we were having our index.json, and we will actually have our node init into it. Okay. So I will start with the okay. The API demo. Oh, just a second. Just a second. I'll check with my console as well. So my package installer is being npm. So it is a node package manager. Npm is the node package manager, and I'll do npm init. And only covers the most tries to get sensible defaults. So my package name, I can keep it as default one. Version as also description. So we can actually write all this information, but I'll be taking the default one. And yes. Okay. You see, we got our package.json over here. So the name is API demo 1.0. Okay. Index.js. Error notice. Okay. We have not written any test. That is fine. Okay. And as I told that the best thing which comes is that we don't need to write a lot of the code by ourselves. So what we need to do is that we need to actually now install some of the dependencies. So we're doing this one is express. We need to parse the body. So one will be body parser. Then we will be needing another function as well. That will be Dialogflow fulfillment. And I think this will do. So we can start with this npmi save express body parser, and yeah. So it will install this particular packages. Now body parser is something which we okay. So on top of it, one more thing you can see. Okay, let us just check our dependencies. Okay. So you can see that we are having body parser and we are having dialog fulfillment. Okay, and this is typically a node server, but this is an Express application which we are building as of now, the Express backend application. Now, okay, so some of the part is done. My modules are also being made. Now I'll write a little bit of code. So if you're not familiar with it, it's okay. Not that tough. Okay. what we just like we define a variable, that is how we will be defining it over here as well. So say constant express this will be requiring or uh, so every express application actually starts from here. If you have started or if you have worked with uh, any of the node application, you will find it that just like we actually import some modules, yeah, typically like that we actually work over here as well. Okay, we needed body parser, and that will be require we will require body parser. Okay, there are some questions. Just a second. Name some common libraries and nodes which you will be using. As I told just now, both the libraries. There are four libraries which I'll be using, Saurabh. And this whole code will also be shared with you. I earlier also told that this is not a typical hands-on session. I'll be performing it. You can actually check it by looking forward for the recordings. Okay. If you want, I can type this down for you. Okay. So one is the body parser, another one is the dialog flow, and one more which I just told, that will be the express. Okay, cool. So you can use npm to get this thing done. And yeah, ex6. Okay, this is a normal warning. Okay, body parser, how you install these, you install these using npm package. Okay, so the command for that is so a typical handbook will be provided to you by the end of this session. Okay, how this whole thing works. So no need to do it right now with me because it will take a lot of time then. If you want, as of now, I can tell you how you actually do it. You run the npm minus I command, which I just run over here. So you can go with that, the same command which I just used over here. So you want all the list of commands like how I initiated it and save command. So npm I minus minus save, and then the name of the modules like express and then the dialog flow fulfillment. I just did it over here, right? So this is the session is getting recorded, so you will be getting the recording of it. So then you can do it. Is that helpful? All this information will be provided to you, right? Because I'm writing it over here. So all this is actually getting captured. No worries as such. Otherwise, the session will go literally very long. It will take around 1.5 hours to do the whole coding part and everything. So we just did that. Body parser is also being gone. Now we'll be needing the constant and the app. We need to define our app part, that will be express. Actually, in the last session also, I told you guys to actually have some of the understanding of how to use an API using the node. So if you would have attended the last session, you would have find it. We need body parser. Body parser is our object, and we will be getting all the information in JSON. So that's why JSON as an object. Now, why are we using body parser? That was the question. Because the API, which we will be actually consuming, the post API, that API will actually take the object of that API will come in the form of a JSON object. And to get the JSON object, we use the body parser. So that's the reason we are using the body parser. The another question was regarding why we're using Express, because this is an Express application. That's why we are using an Express. And dialog for fulfillment is because we want to actually use the function. So our agent can communicate with this and can understand its language. That's why we use the dialog flow fulfillment. The code will be shared to you. Yeah. After the session, you can actually do it by yourself. So you'll be having the screen recording, you will be having the code with you, the files with you. You just have to run it. We'll be able to do it. No worries. So JSON, and then there is const, and then there's port, and then there is process.env. Where is the env process.e? Yep. And there should be port. So this is a default port. We are actually right now we are mentioning on which port it will be running. So every server actually needs a port, and we are providing that is the default port for Express server as well. That is 3000. Now we will be using app.post, and we'll be providing it with the URL. So typically it comes with the routing. Okay, so that is the which part you want to route to. So we gave Dialogflow, and we will say test. Okay, that is what we want to route to, and it takes two arguments. One is request, what request you want to give, and another one is the response. POLSE. Okay, so there is request and response. Okay, no, not the functions, the argument. Okay, why it is giving me a syntax? Okay. So I'll be providing it with my annotation. Uh, and inside this, there should be this. Yeah, there should be console.log, and I want to test my console.log. I'll be using the test method over here. Yep. So my post, I have written it. I'll be using the same thing for my listen port. Okay, I can type it from scratch, no worries. So I'll do app.listen. And why am I using the listening? So that it can actually take the request. That's why I'm using the listen. Give my default response. So if you're not aware of how this thing is actually working, you can actually take a little bit of a tutorial on the Express. Not much of the Express or Node is being actually used over here. Console.log. Also, it is also, I mean, in the prerequisite that the prerequisite of this is that you must have attended the last session. So see, you can see it over here. Listen on board, and is it taking it? Is it listening on board? Sensitive language. Okay, console.log listening on port. All are now I want to take it as it is. So app.listen comes as a particular variable. I'll take it actually as it is. It will again take a lot of time. Yep. Okay. So my port is something it will take from here. That will be 3000. This will be the test. And I think there must be some of the error. We will see what are the errors. No worries as such. So I want to run the whole app, and yep, it should work. We'll see if something is remaining. Okay. Now let us just do one more thing. That is start. Okay. Okay. It is missing the script. No worries. We'll come over here. We'll add our script. So our script is simple. We just need to add the run script over here. It is about start. So what is it is asking about the start, right? So I'll do it the start and start. Uh, this is a node application which should invoke index.js. Or is it breaking over here? Okay, oh, sorry. So it has to be like this. Okay. So this will be saved. I've saved this. This is also not saved. I'll save this as well. And start. So it is listening on port 3000. You can see it. Yeah. Listening on port 3000. Now we'll be checking the same thing over here. And that is where our postman will come into the picture. This is how a postman typically looks like. So right now it is my local host. And slash it is so my path is Dialogflow test API. So I'll give this path. Yep. Okay. And this is the post. And it is not local host A, it is local host. So localhost 3000 Dialogflow test API. And it's a post request, it is not the get request. Okay, we are posting it from here. And we'll send it as a blank. Let us send it. This is still sending the request. Listening on port and then there it is written test. Okay, that means that this is working fine. No worries as such. The script has started. Test has been printed. That means that it is able to hit it. Okay. Right now, we have not provided it with any of the other information. That's why it is giving it like this. So what we will do is we'll make this server, okay, and then we are going to update it. Now, see what we want to do. You remember, right? The thing which we wanted to do was we wanted to have our own API, okay, by which we'll be sending the response. So we wanted our API. So we'll be making our API from our server. So our server is up now. We need some sort of information. And so typically, let me just give a brief of how this thing will work. So let us just say that this is a user U1 and U1 will send some hi. Okay, he is able to send some hi, right? So we will take that hi, and for that hi, we will send the response from our server. So our Dialogflow will get this and it will send a response to this particular hi, this Dialogflow, but from our app server. That is what we will be doing. Right now, it was doing it by using the cloud functions, but now we'll make our own server, and that server will be used now. Okay, all right. So, and index has been created. Package and package.objson is also updated. Now the things which we need are typically around. So we'll actually not use this now anymore because we got the printing of test, right? So that is how we actually test it out. So that is working fine. Now comes the part where we want to actually use it. So one thing is the dialog flow fulfillment. We actually edited dialog flow fulfillment. Okay, so we'll add another constant over here. That is the webhook client. The constant with equals to, and we'll be using the one which we fulfillment. Right. There's space over here. Right. So it is not taking but its values never read. Why it is? We have already added dialog flow. Okay. Dialog flow fulfillment. What is the package name of dialog flow fulfillment? Okay. Yeah. Now makes sense. Okay. So dialog flow fulfillment, and then we will be needing our body parser is fine. We'll be needing our function over here. So now let me tell you what we are actually trying to do. So we'll be creating a function over here first, okay? And this function is going to take a request and response. So see, there will be a function. That function will be dialog flow test. So we'll define this function dialog flow test. Okay, this function which will be taking a request and response. Request response, and it will also redirect it in such a manner that I'll be calling my agent first. Okay, there's a const agent, and what this agent will be doing, this agent will actually be taking this new webhook client, and it will also come up with its request and response. Request and response, and then this request and response has to be under a function. This function will be my test function. Okay, this test function will be, let us just say, the agent. I'll explain you what we are going to do. Just give me a second. Okay, agent. No worries, sort of. I'll explain it to you. I think you have you worked with Node earlier? Okay. Uh, this is pretty fine. Okay, right. No worries. You will understand what we are doing right now. And so we just gave hey. This is what we have added. This is pretty fine. And we will need to actually map it out with the and we will initialize it first. Yep. So our function will be saying it that hey, this is pretty fine, and we'll also say working awesome. Uh, and then which will say new map. Also has to have the intent mapping. So intent map. Here we are going to give two particular things. One is the function name, which is test, and the intent which we want to define. Okay. So right now, when we talked about it, uh, there was already an intent. Let me just tell you what I'm talking about. So see, how many intents do we have over here? We have contact, we have default fallback intent, we have default welcome intent, we have hobbies, right? So we'll be taking default welcome intent because this works pretty fine as of now. And what we are going to do is that for this, we are taking as of now, the responses are coming from here, but we want it to come from our end, right? So you will see that there's something which is known as fulfillment, and we will say that in Dialogflow, we'll say enable the web, and we'll save it. Okay, it will say that it is saving, it is done. And what we will do, we'll go over here and we'll go into fulfillments. And right now you will say this webhook is disabled. We'll say enable this webhook as well. So it is asking for your URL. As of now, we don't have it, so we'll give HTTPS / localhost, although it doesn't take localhost. And what was it? Was Dialogflow test API. We gave a name to it. Dialogflow. Yeah. And we are going to enable it and we're going to save it now. Great. Okay, fine. So we already have our intent, and our intent name is default welcome intent. And for default welcome intent, we have enabled the webhook. Okay, and that webhook we have provided a URL as well. But right now you will see that hello, how can you do? So how can I help for you? So we'll okay. This is what the fulfillment request looks like. We will be needing this also. So we have the intent map, and we will be using the default fallback. So our intent which we are using, that has to be passed as a string, that is default welcome intent. The function which will be used when this intent is being invoked by Dialogflow will be test, and test will return, hey, this is pretty fine, working awesome. That is what it is. And we also need a handler for it, so we'll say agent dot handle request, and to do that we will say intent map. Okay, and I think that is pretty fine. So yep, and yes, and this is also fine, fine. Cool, makes a lot of sense. So we require body parser, we have taken that, we've taken this as well, no worries, no worries. This will also do. So this is JSON, welcome the port, Dialogflow test. Yep, function is also the test. Okay, all right, Cool then. We have another flow test over here. This is test and test. This is test. And what is the name which we have given upside for this? Flow test API. Yep. And the listen port. So I think this whole should be saved now. We have saved it. And now we will be again starting our server. Okay, there is an error. Let us see what is the error. Module not found. Okay. Okay, action on Google. We will need a module. No, Google. No worries. So save. Let's copy this. We got one more module. Sort of this will be in the recording, so no worries about it. Okay. And we'll do and start. And it is again listening to 3000. Okay. So see what is happening over here. I'll explain it to you. We just got the body parser express and dialog for fulfillment, and what we are doing is that we are exposing our port to 3000. What we are saying is that whenever there is a post API and the Dialogflow test API, okay, whenever this particular API has been hit, this function has to be run. Okay, and when we say this function has to be run, okay, no, there is a problem over here. This won't run because there is nothing like an API. It has to be test. Dialogflow test. Yeah, now it is fine. Control S. We have saved it. We will again have to kill it. All right. So this function has to be run, Dialogflow test. And when we say Dialogflow test, it take request and its response. In the request and response, what we have said that there is the agent, okay, this agent. Whenever this agent actually sends a request, how this request is actually mapped. We use this intent.map function. There is a method where we say which for what particular intent, okay, which particular intent, which functions has to be run. So if it is default welcome intent, the test function has to be run. And in the test, we have said agent.add is the method by which we actually gives a response back to our Dialogflow. So we will say, hello, this was great. Okay. And hello, this was great. Working fine. Okay. Yeah. Cool then. This should work. Okay. Now comes another interesting part of this thing. I told about the diagnostic. Not this one. So there was this fulfillment request. Okay. You can see that default welcome intent right now say hello, how can I help you, right? It is doing it because we have written it over here. Where? Right here. All the responses are over here. That is what we need to change now. It is hi, but for let us say hello. For hello, you will see good day. What can I do for you? So rather than hi or hello, anytime whenever default welcome intent is actually working, what we want is that our message should be displayed over there. And our message is what? Our message is this one, this function one. Hello, this was great, working fine. This is what should be displayed. That is when we'll be recording or getting the code only. Which part of the code you are not getting, Saurabh? I think Node is pretty new to you. Is that the problem? Or have you not worked with the API? In the last session, the one recording which I shared to you, I actually explicitly asked that individuals should come prepared with the APIs, how Node APIs actually work. Explaining every bit of it, okay, no worries. What I will do is that I'll provide you with the commented codes, okay? Right now can't do it. We are having a little bit of less time, sort of. So what I will do is I'll comment this particular code and I'll write the description of why we are using each and everything. And that code will be shared to you by Board Infinity by the end of this session. The general thinking is, as of now, what you can understand, if you have no experience, not at all, okay, any experience with the Dialogflow, what you can understand is that what we are doing is that we are using this webhook client. This webhook client will be invoked whenever this post request is being given on this particular path, Dialogflow test API. So whenever this will be this path will invoke a function, Dialogflow test will actually this whole function should actually execute. In order to execute this, we have used this intentMap.set. Okay, so which takes two argument. One is the default intent and the function which will return the value to the agent. So we have taken our intent as the default welcome intent, and this is the test. You saw why you are using default welcome intent, because only in that default welcome intent we have enabled this webhook. We have enabled the webhook for this. Okay, so right now it is providing the responses using the Google functions. It's okay, no worries. The default responses are coming, we will be changing it to our server responses. So we have started this one. Now we'll go over here and we'll look at the diagnostic info. I'll find the fulfillment request and we'll copy all of that. Copied all of this thing. Okay. And by copying this, we will actually use now our Postman. So you will see that in our Postman, we were already having localhost 3000, Dialogflow test API. We will provide our body over here. Okay, this is just a second. Postman got hanged. Just a second. Localhost Dialogflow test API, and in the body section we have pasted that particular part, and it does not has to be text. It has to be JSON. This is a JSON. Okay. Yep. Localhost 3000 test API. Okay, our agent, this server is also up. Dialogflow test API. Where is the name? Dialogflow test API. Okay. Send. And you see that we did the post and what we retrieved, hello, this was great. Can you see? So yeah. Okay, the working fine is not, so we need to actually save it. We can actually make it working fine. And we'll also add awesome. Control C of it. And again, let's start the server as listening again. and again do the same. So working fine. So that means that our request response is now working fine. No worries as such. We can close this. No need of this. Now what we want to do is that this has to be done. This for the welcome. This is working fine. Awesome. And let us just save this again, and we will make. We'll add another terminal. Okay. Now the problem is that we cannot use the local host as such. This local host, because this is hosted on a local host, right? This is a local host. So we can't use that as it is. For that, what we can do is that we will be using ngrok as a service. If you are not aware of the ngrok, what it works like is that, see, there is, I've already installed ngrok over here. So, okay, I'll tell you how this ngrok thing works. So anytime you want to, how many of you are aware of what a local host is actually then? See, ngrok, what it does is it helps you to convert your localhost into an HTTPS. And in Dialogflow, every time we make our own fulfillments, okay, we make our own fulfillment. So see, we have given localhost over here. That is not being taken by it. That's why we need to give some other HTTPS request. So that's why we used ngrok. You can actually download it from here. It is nothing but simple. It's oh, you don't need to sign in also. Zero. Yeah, and click on download, and download for Windows. You can do it like this. Okay, similar. So it will come as a zip package. I'll show you how it looks like. Studio. You can see that here we do have ngrok. Just a second. This is ngrok. Okay, so here there is ngrok.exe. And what we are going to do is that we already have something on our localhost 3000. So we'll convert it into an HTTPS. It's pretty simple process, not that tough. So let me /g. See, it has been invoked, ngrok has been invoked. It will tell what to do. So we want ngrok HTTP for. So also we can write /ng. And we want it for our 3000. Our port is 3000. For that we want it. So we will be actually applying it for the same. So 3000. It will give me an IP over here. So you can see this is the one. So I can copy this whole thing. And earlier you were able to see that we were having a postman. So in the postman, I was using localhost 3000. In place of that, even if I use this ngrok, again, I receive the same thing, right? See, so that is working fine. So I'll take this whole thing. Okay. And what we will do is that we will place it over here. And I will click on save. So now what we are going to do is that when server our intent of welcome will be invoked, this intent won't be going to the training phases. It should go to which part? It should go to our server and get a response from here. So if I say hello, it should actually give me hello, this was great, working fine. Yeah, this was something which we wrote in our code. Okay, I've written awesome after it. So if I will stop a server and again I'll start it, then again it will show me the same thing. But then again I'll have to get my new ngrok ID. So that is how you actually set up your own server for which you get your own default responses. Okay, we can do it again. Let's do it again. Okay, so there is a quick round time. Let's try to track it. Okay, so let's make it. Okay, it's okay. Let's save it. So what I will do is that I'll go over here. Okay, not on the N0, but on the node server, and I will close my node server. Okay, and I'll again start it. So it is again listening on 3000. And here, what I will do is again I'll do Control C, and again I will do 3000. So I'll be getting a new URL. I think the URL is same. I'll use this, and what we will do, we will go to Postman. Hey, it's working. You see, that is fine. We will take this one, and again we are going to place it over here. In the fulfillment, we will change the IP and we'll say save. And you can see that I'm again using a high for my welcome intent. Hey, it's working. It is coming right now. Now there are two to three very interesting questions which would make a lot of sense. That is that how this is working, right? The very first thing is sort of that this whole thing is being provided as an open source code by Google itself. Like if you want to intent out anything, or if you want to have your own intent, we can actually have multiple intents, okay, mapped to multiple different kind of function. So, and that is what we are going to do in the coming session. So, the prerequisite for the coming session is you should be aware of how we actually enable a fulfillment using a node server. The second time, what we will be doing is we won't be using localhost. We will be using Heroku server, and we'll be using another web service in itself. That is the weather API. So, the weather API, we will be using weather API. We'll be getting the real-time weather, and we'll be showing it. And also the integration, we'll be integrating it with the Facebook Messenger. That is what we'll be doing. So I hope there would be a lot of questions, but if you have any other questions, please ask me regarding this. This code will be provided to you, the recordings will be with you, and if you have any specific queries, you can ask me anytime. I'll provide you with the answer. And this whole code will be commented as well, although this is commented. Let me provide you with some information. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if there are any questions, please do ask me. We can actually entertain the questions as of now. Yeah, so if anyone has any question, or if you have any question in future, anytime, I'll be available. So this brings us to the end of this session. If anyone want to suggest something, or if anyone want to add something to it, they can tell the Board Infinity. And thank you, Board Infinity, so much for this session. And if you want to know the prerequisite of it, you can go to the video which was being done earlier. The link was being shared by the Gurtej. But if anyone wants to know that, they can go over there. Okay. So it was amazing. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Board Infinity, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for the informative session. And we hope that our all participants have liked the webinars and learned something from it. And guys, if you like it, then hit the like button. And if you think your friends will also get a benefit from it, then do share it with your friends. Comment down below which workshop do you need in the upcoming Sundays. So like we have planned a lot of in the pipelines of the workshops in the for the upcoming Sundays. So just comment down your best part of this workshop and what you want to learn in the future as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the Board Infinity channel for more webinars, workshop, and informative videos like this. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for connecting with us today. And thank you so much for giving your valuable insights.
Thank you, Gurtej. Okay, bye.